Hi students. I'm sorry the setup's a little wonky today for this video. My document camera wouldn't work. I had to plug in an extra and I'm running out of room on the desk to do so. So I'm on page 59, our last day of new learning for the unit, and it is on literal equations. Sorry, I'm just going to see if I can get this a little bit closer. It's like does not want to like me, this thing. I really don't know what I'm... Alright, we're going to call that good enough. So literal equations are just moving an equation around to solve for another variable in the equation. So in science class, it would be like taking the Fahrenheit formula and reconfiguring it to solve it for Celsius. So Celsius was alone on one side versus Fahrenheit. So if you look at the examples at the top here, you have the formula ax equals b, and they want you to solve it for x. So they want you to move the a, get the x alone. So you do the algebra to get the x alone. Once the x is alone, you're done. So number 2, you would take this equation, okay, by minus 6 equals c, and solve it for y. That means get the y alone, move everything else on the other side. So once y is alone, you are done. Okay, so take a minute to review those. Okay, getting more complicated, you want to solve it for x. Get all the x's to one side. Move everything that's not an x to the other side. And then move what's in that same term that's not an x to the other side. And then you're done when the x is alone. Okay, so let's say you want to do number 1. You have the formula a equals bh, and you want to solve it for h, which means the b has to move. What's going on between the b and the h? Multiplication. So you do division. Divide both sides by b. H equals a over b. You are done. Number 2. If I'm going too fast, boys and girls, you can pause this, rewind it, whatever you need to do. Number 2, we're going to solve for x. I'm going to get the x alone, so just like regular algebra, I move the a, and then I move the 2. So x equals b minus a over 2. I wish I could focus this, but I don't have a lot of choices for buttons on this one. Sorry, it's a little blurry. I'm looking for buttons. Literally, I have like a camera button. I have an AF button. I'm going to press it and see what happens. Oh, good, look, it's focusing. I was really hoping that stood for autofocus. And it's a little better, but not awesome. Alright. I'll leave the answer key if you guys need to see it. You can just ask for it. Solving for L, I need to move the 2w. Then I need to move the 2. So I have p minus 2w over 2, which can reduce to p over 2 minus w equals L. A lot of kids just want to cross this out. That's not right because the p is also being divided by 2. So don't forget, it's p over 2 minus w equals L. Okay, number 4, we're solving for y. Move the x. Then move the 3. Okay, there's number 5 for you. Oh, you can't see it. Take a look at that. Number 5, take a minute to review it. And number 6 is trickier because you have that squared in there. Okay, but if we're solving for x, that s being squared doesn't make a difference to us because we only want to get the x alone. So I'm going to add rs squared to both sides. Then I'm going to divide by rs. And look what happens. If I wrote this out long form, it would really be r times s for rs squared divided by rs. So you could see that the r's could cancel, the s's could cancel, leaving you with an s. So be careful. A little tricky along with 7 and 8. We're solving for a. Got to get all the a's together because right now they're on both sides, so get them together. Then move the x's together. Then get rid of the coefficient. And a equals x over 6. Because 5 goes into 5 once and into 36 times, but there's more in the denominator. Therefore, the 6 stays in the denominator. And then 7, you're solving for y. So get both the y's together. I should just say the by's together because that's the term. So get all those y's, those by's together on one side. Get your b squareds together on one side. My lights just went off. Sorry, so get the b's together, b squareds together on one side. Then you want to move the coefficient of 3, and you want to move the b because you only want the y alone. So that's all multiplication, so you're going to do division. So you divide on both sides, and you're left with 3b, because again, this is really 9 times b over 3b. Well, 3 goes into 9 3 times. Those b's cancel, and you're left with a b. So y equals 3b. Alright, let's see what happens when we have to do a fraction. So I'm on the next page, number 9. I want to solve for h, so I have to move the 1/3. So just like in algebra, I multiply both sides by 3. Then I have to move the capital B, divide by capital B. Do not make it a lowercase b. It's mathematically incorrect to switch between upper and lowercase. They would in fact represent different numbers. So 3v over b equals h. Pretty much, I think that's... Oh, number 12 is a little interesting. So let's talk about 12. Okay, I'm going to talk about 12. You guys can pause this, go back and recopy what you need to. But number 12, I want to solve for r. And r here is squared. So I need the 1/3, the pi, and the h to move. This is all multiplication. So I'm going to multiply by the 3, which is really like dividing by 1/3. So I'm going to multiply each side by 3 to get the 3v equals pi r squared h. I want the pi and the h to move, so I'm going to divide them out because it's multiplication. So divide, divide. So 3v over pi h can simplify. So I have 3v over pi h equals r squared. How do you undo a square? A square root. So I square root the right, I square root the left. The square root of r squared is r. I've utterly no idea, unless someone tells me what v and h stand for, what the square root of this is, so I just leave it as the square root of 3v over, oops, pencil broke, h. So the square root of 3v over pi h. 14 is a typo in itself for x. 13, a little tricky, lots of ways you could solve. You could distribute the 1/2 n in and get this. Move everything over and solve for a. Or you could do it this way. Okay. These are also acceptable answers. This is 14. Okay, so 25n minus L equals A, or sorry, I think it's 2s. Yes, 2s over n minus L equals A, or 2s over n minus L equals A. Or 2s minus nl over n, which reduces to 2s over n minus l. Or some kids used fractions and they had s minus 1/2 nl over 1/2 n. Okay, it gets a little tricky in here when we have different ways of writing the same thing. We won't really worry about anything as hard as 13 right now. Okay, we can, if you don't understand 13, please do not get nervous or upset or stressed out. I will be going over this with you tomorrow when I am back in class. So 13 is blowing your mind. Don't worry about it. Just set it aside, and we will talk about it some more in class. Your homework is going to be 61 and 62. I'm not sure that there's directions. Oh, there are. Directions for 61 are at the bottom, or 62 are at the bottom. It says solve each equation for x or y. So that's for this page, starting here at number 9. Solve each equation for x or y. That's what you're looking for. So again, my apologies that this video is not like awesome. They're usually much better, but my equipment isn't working, and it's pretty late at night, and I'm still here at school. So my apologies. Next video should be back up to snuff. Alright guys, we will see you tomorrow.